Hello, perfect beauties. I'm giving the biggest announcement of my life, and it's not clickbait. I am pregnant. At the time of filming this, I am 20 weeks pregnant. It feels so awkward talking about it because it's so personal, but at the same time I have so much to say. So I'm gonna be just talking about kind of the feelings about pregnancy, how I found out I was pregnant, what me and my partner think. And then on my next video, I'm going to do another video where I talk all about first trimester symptoms, because I literally went through hell, H-E double hockey sticks L, through the first 4 months. I'm finally getting back to normal, but I'm still at 60%. So yeah, I still feel like shit a lot of the times, but the first 4 months were absolute torture, and I'm not going to sugarcoat any of my experience. So first and foremost, I uploaded a video about freezing my eggs, which is a little bit ironic because I probably didn't need to do that. But I've had so much anxiety over pregnancy, over fertility, over being a career woman, and being very, very ambitious and successful. And you always hear about, stories of women in their 30s, freaking out, panicking because of their biological clock. And for me, it was always I felt like you kind of come, for women, kind of come as a crossroads. You either become a mom, or you become this super success career woman. And it was really, really hard to do both. I have seen women who do both, but I've seen a lot more women who don't have kids and are very, very financially successful. And then I saw men, and men, for the most part, they are the ones who usually can have it all. They can usually have the kids, have the wife, and have the very, very successful, high-powered career. And for women, it was kind of like 35% of them had that, and then 65%. A lot of them were divorced, a lot of them were single, a lot of them didn't have kids. And so I was freaking out because I was like, do I have to make this decision? And is it not coincidence that this is what I see? And if you look at the earnings of women throughout, society, they say women make 77 cents to the dollar. But if you actually control for whether women have children or not, women without children make 90 cents to the male dollar. So it's a lot more equal parity. So women having kids definitely kind of not disables you, but is a lot harder, right, to move forward in your career when you do have kids. And I think that's why I had so much anxiety over it, because I feel like I've worked so hard throughout my life to get to where I am now, and I am so, so, so fortunate to have what I have. Do I just want to throw all of that away because I didn't see other women having it? And so, I don't know, I just felt well, if they can't have it, then why do I think I can, So I just had a lot of confusing feelings about it. And for me, my identity inherently is being very, very successful, very career-oriented, very ambitious, very go-getter. I'm pretty, on top of things, and, to the point, straightforward kind of personality. And being a mom is something I really wanted from such a young age, but I felt like it would compromise this identity that I worked so hard to figure out. And I think especially being a young woman, you're not taken seriously, right? And then if you're a young woman and you have a child or a baby, I feel like that just makes it even harder. So there was just a lot of anxiety over it. And I do think that if I wasn't so career oriented, if I hadn't started my first baby, which is banished from scratch, if, I just worked more of a stable job, just a very average stable job, I probably would just want to pop out kids. and not really think about it, right? But because I'm in a very different situation job-wise and financial-wise, I just had a lot of anxiety over it. So I also, because I am involved in a lot of business and finance and all that kind of stuff, I do surround myself with people who are much older than me. Probably the average age of them is in their mid-40s, and also a lot of males. And I didn't realize this, and this is kind of why I decided to freeze my eggs, but a lot of people have trouble with infertility. And when you are hearing that, couples have been trying for several years to get pregnant, you're like, oh my God, like, because it's weird because like, when you're in high school, everyone's telling you like not to get pregnant. That's like a death sentence, right? And then all of a sudden you become, 30 and it's like now everybody wants to get pregnant. Some people can't. And it's just weird. It's like this automatic switch, that nobody tells you. And I really do wish, because I'm all about like female empowerment and stuff, that for the very ambitious young women who are, graduating college, that they understand what fertility is, that they understand what a timeline is, that they understand all the options that they have, so that way they don't wake up when they're like 35 and feel like rushed, And I think a lot of women like aren't really aware of that, but because I heard of all these stories, and because I've seen, like, I know couples who have gone through like 6 rounds of IVF and have spent so much money, and people who have, done other options like surrogacy and whatever. Because I've seen it, I know that it's not like if you want to get pregnant, you just get pregnant, and it's just this weird like thing. And to a seminar that was sponsored by my school, Alumni Association, I talked about this in my egg freezing video, but the fertility specialist spoke to us, and she said, getting pregnant is the one thing in your life that you have really no control over, that you can't just work at getting pregnant. It's not like the harder you work, like the, better the result is. Like some people, they get pregnant right away, and some people they don't. And there's really no rhyme or reason why some people, like have that and some people don't, and it's kind of like, I feel like it's kind of a little bit similar with acne. Like some people just have really bad acne like I did. Some people have amazing skin without having to do anything to it. And for somebody like me who's so ambitious and I'm such a control freak and I'm so determined, that was really hard to wrap my mind around, that like, yo, Daisy, this is not something you have control over. Like, it's not. Like, just because you want something, especially creating another human being, you can't just like dictate when and where it happens, And that took me a little bit of time to like wrap my head around. And it was only until I heard the stories of people who were struggling to get pregnant that, oh shit, it's like a real problem. So, another thing about like having kids and stuff was like, oh my gosh, like when is it gonna happen? When is the right time? And as I was laying out my plan, like when would be the right time, right? Like Banish, we've grown, and we, there's a team, we have an amazing team in place, and I have employees, and I do payroll and have payroll taxes and stuff like that. And when you have people depending on your business to support their families, it adds this undue pressure, right? And you're like, can I even have another child, another baby, another child to support? Like, how is this all gonna work? Am I gonna be a good mom? Am I gonna be attentive? Like, it was just like all these feelings, and like, when is the right time? Like, should I wait until I'm more mature and more settled? And me and my partner, our relationship is not super new, but it's also not like we've known each other for 10 years. So should we, get to know each other more to make sure we're like super, super set and ready? Stuff like, there's just so many questions. And you guys know I struggle with perfectionism. I have a whole TED Talk, a tragedy called Perfection. But in my life, I try to plan everything out really, really well. And I try to make sure everything's at the right place at the right time. And I kind of want to not control, but I am a control freak. I want to control like every little process of everything, because that's what really makes a great business and a great product. But for your life and for other human beings, you can't do that. So It's weird. There's this parody video on YouTube where like very successful, ambitious couples, they're not having kids because they never think it's the right time. They're always waiting and waiting and waiting for certain factors because they're such perfectionists. And then the, ones who are not so successful are like having 8, 6, 5 kids, just popping them out left and right, because they just like, it just happens, and they don't try to like control and plan everything. And that's why in the US, I think in general, in the whole world, like people are having fewer and fewer kids. The fertility rate has dropped significantly, and women are having kids at a much older age than ever before, which is not just like me and my group of like friends. It's like everybody is like being part of this trend. And also, in countries like Japan, I think people are not having kids and they're suffering from a population epidemic because people are so into, their careers and into working hard and into sustaining a lifestyle that they don't want to have the responsibility of, raising a family and all that. So, I mean, it's a really real topic, and it really defines, this generation. I mean, this generation, like, we're graduating with so much student debt. Things are so expensive. Rent is so expensive. So many, people are still living at home with their parents. I mean, things are just expensive. People are not getting married. People are not dating. People are just hooking up, and people are not having kids. And it's just like weird like time that we're in, and kind of we'll see what happens. But anyways, always wanted to have a family, and there's nothing more satisfying to me than being around people you love and who love you unconditionally. Like it's probably like the best feeling in the world. And yeah, so getting pregnant, well, how did I get pregnant? Well, I don't think I need to demonstrate anything, but it was not completely planned. At the same time, it wasn't like completely like surprised or unplanned. Me and my partner, we were going through like premarital counseling, and I was actually like in a really good emotional state. This was after I gave my TED Talk, and after giving my TED Talk, I just felt ready. How do I put it? I felt like I found my truth. I felt like I was so much more comfortable with who I was and who I am and what I stood for, and I felt less worried and stressed out about stuff because I realized like what made me happy, and I realized what was important to me. And so there's this feeling of like, maybe it's like the maturity you get in your 30s where you just feel like, hey, things are working out for me. Hey, I feel good about myself. Hey, I feel good about where I am. Hey, like I am who I am, and I'm not pretending to be like anyone else. And then things happen, and I really do truly believe that in this life, especially when you're creating another human being, that life happens for you and you're on this journey, and there's things are meant to be like really, really great things will happen to you if you live your truth and if you are who you are. And as long as you don't try to pretend to be someone you're not, as long as you're not, being fake or hiding behind something, you treat others with respect and kindness, I really do think good things happen. How I found out. So I went on a trip. I was supposed to get my period then. So I actually had my Diva cup with me in my pocket at all times. And I was just waiting for my period to come, and obviously it didn't come. But I didn't really think that it didn't really occur to me that I was pregnant. My period, though, I will say, has always been super regular. It's like a calendar, it's like a clock, it's super, super reliable. So what it felt like, this is the perfect analogy. I felt like there was cardboard in my uterus. And I don't know like how to describe it, but it just felt like there was something in there. And it wasn't like there was a tampon or a Diva cup. It was like there was cardboard in my uterus. That's what it felt like. It didn't hurt. I felt a tiny bit of pinching on the sides, but it felt like there was cardboard in my uterus. And then another symptom was that I remember we were biking on a cobblestone like road, and because it was cobblestone, you're going bouncing up and down, and my boobs were hurting so bad that I was almost about to cry because it was so painful. And then other few things I remember is like we went hiking up really high, and it was actually pretty cool, but I was so sweaty. Like my whole like dress was soaked in sweat, and I usually don't sweat. And I was just constantly hot. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I was definitely like sweating profusely. So those were the main symptoms in the very beginning. But pregnancy symptoms and PMS symptoms are very similar, so it's hard to tell. But I think the whole feeling cardboard in your uterus, yeah, that kind of, it's very different. Okay. So then I came back, had terrible food poisoning from my trip. It was really bad. I literally had diarrhea 30 times a day, and I wish I was exaggerating, but I'm not. My butthole was about to explode. I had to go to the ER a couple times because even taking a sip of water, I just exploded with diarrhea. I couldn't keep any liquids down. I mean, it was really bad. And I even had to give a stool sample, which is like the absolute grossest thing you're ever going to have to do in your life. So I had food poisoning. I had Campylobacter. This was during the time when I started getting morning sickness symptoms, but I thought it was because I was getting food poisoning. And my food poisoning was so bad, but my brother also ate the same food. I only suffered through it for 1 or 2 nights, whereas I suffered through the food poisoning for a week. And when you're pregnant, your immune system goes down. So I do think I had like worse food poisoning because I was pregnant. And I was also really hot and just sweating all the time and just feeling like so hot, and I had really bad diarrhea. I didn't want to eat anything. I was nauseous too. So before even going to the hospital, I took a pregnancy test, and it was like, boom, instant, no question asked about it. I was pregnant. And yeah, so that was pretty awful. And then I had like 3 conferences that week, and I had to go to them. Ugh. Sometimes I wonder how I get through these things. I was freaking out a little bit, but because I was so incredibly sick, I didn't really have the energy to freak out, which is kind of crazy because I know when you're pregnant, you're not supposed to eat certain foods. You're not supposed to get, you're not supposed to get food poisoning. And the fact that I had food poisoning and I was like, oh shit, like, did I mess up everything? Even on my trip, and I will say this, even on my trip, I went to a lot of saunas. I did drink alcohol. I mean, I did everything that you're not supposed to do when you're pregnant, but I didn't know, right? It was very early on. And I think the moral of the story is that, like, you can't control everything, and not everything is going to be perfect. And there's just going to be times when, like, things will happen. You just have to let them happen. Because I was freaking out. And sometimes you go on the internet and you read and you dig yourself into the rabbit hole of like what could happen. Like, oh, in this one study of mice, this happened with this kind of food poisoning. This is what happens to the brain development. And you just get so freaked out. So I have learned to trust the process and understand that whatever's meant to happen will happen, and kind of enjoy the journey instead of trying to control everything. And that's really hard for me because I am a control freak. Okay. I mean, the food poisoning, it took like about a week or 10 days to really get out of my system. So I was not eating. I had really bad diarrhea. If I was eating anything, it would be chips and Diet Coke, because that was the only stuff that could sit in my stomach. I couldn't eat any like real food. Meat was absolutely, just felt disgusting to me. Vegetables felt disgusting. Like, yeah, it was basically like really processed chips and Diet Coke. Talk later about my first trimester pregnancy symptoms, but it was pretty awful. It was the absolute worst physical pain I have been in for the 4 months, because I mean, you cannot take medicine to get rid of this stuff. Like, it felt like I constantly had the worst hangover, plus the flu, but you're not able to take any medicine for it. And then you have to like continue your normal life for 4 months because like life doesn't just stop, you know, like my company doesn't just stop because I'm not feeling well. So that was really, really awful. And I think the reason why I have really bad symptoms is because I'm very, very, very sensitive to everything, hormone changes, skincare ingredients, stuff like that. So I think some people, they have absolutely no symptoms. Some people have an amazing first trimester, and I was just suffering so much. So that just gives you a preview. But I'm going to do another video about like everything I went through first trimester. In terms of like different products to use, whatever, I literally and honestly only use Banish products for my skincare mostly. So I knew Banish products are pregnancy safe, but if you are pregnant, you should not be using any ingredients in your skincare that have retin-A, that have benzoyl peroxide or salicylic acid or hydroquinone. And so really like go through your skincare products and make sure that they are clean and safe, and really thankful that like Banish products are all pregnancy safe, and I didn't even know that when creating the line, but I guess you guys, I'm super sensitive to every tiny little thing that even not knowing, like if you think about like what's pregnancy safe, it's basically like you don't, like pregnancy safe means like you just doing things that are good to your body. You don't want to have anything that's like bad for your body. So if it's not pregnancy safe, it's probably not really good for you in the first, you know, in the first place. Like drinking too much coffee is not good for you. Having too much alcohol is not good for you. You know what I mean? So smoking tobacco is not good for you. So anyways, that's just a skincare tip. What have I learned from this experience now that I'm 5 months? I am so grateful for being here and sharing my story and going on this journey and feeling, I don't know, just being able to have the opportunity to grow a human being inside of me. And I really do believe that this experience has taught me so much about not trying to control things, and not being so hard on myself, because I mean there have been days I have forgotten to take my, you know, prenatal vitamins. There have been days when I haven't been eating well at all throughout this whole experience. But, you know, I could be so hard on myself and beating myself down. But I just have to go with it and realize that, you know, the universe has given me such a great gift, and that I need to cherish and be very grateful for this gift. And I think it's also taught me of like what a mom is and what being a good parent is. I definitely do not want to control my child's life. I think this child is independent of me and is independent of my partner, and we can help shape them in this way, but at the end of the day, they are their own person. And so, you know, me again, being a control freak, right? Like I run my own business. It's going to be hard for me to make sure that they develop fully into themselves, whatever that might be. But I think what I want most for my child is for them to be fully themselves and to be fully authentic and not feel controlled by anything, and not, you know, have and understand, you know, what love and kindness is, and have them figure out like what their true passion and calling is, and allowing them to express that to the fullest extent possible. So I think that's kind of what I've learned from this experience. And there's just so much you can't control. I mean, even the gender of the child, you know, you cannot control, you know, how the child comes out, what the child looks like, you know, will they like spaghetti and meatballs? I mean, just these little things, like, you don't know what they're going to be. And I think in this age when we're so obsessed with consumerism, when we're so obsessed with swiping and choosing different traits and being so picky about things. I think this is the biggest like part of your life, and you have absolutely no control over who this person is going to become. That is so terrifying for someone like me. But at the same time, I've learned so much from it, and I don't know. I'm learning how to enjoy the journey and learning how to enjoy the next 4 months and not learning how not to be so hard on myself and not feeling so guilty all the time. So thank you all so much for watching, and thank you so much for your support. I've been on this YouTube channel for 10 years, and I don't know, it's just crazy like sharing this side of my life with you, because I'm bringing another human into this world. And thank you all so much for watching, and I'm going to have a first trimester, second trimester, probably third trimester. Maybe I'll do like baby must-haves or what you need, whatever. I don't really know how in-depth I want to go into this. I guess it'll depend on the reaction to this video. But thank you all so much for your support, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.